Should we start? Yeah, go. Okay, so welcome back. So lecture number 2 is the state of nature. Hobbes characterizes the state of nature as the external environment. It's the absence of organized, centralized authority. And he defines it, he characterizes it as being chaotic, brutish, short-lived, harsh conditions. Right? So we're going to talk about the state of hedonism. Oh, okay. Okay. So let's talk about the state of nature. Human beings, so the naked ape, again, storyline, human beings enter society in its natural state. What is the natural state? It's the external environment. There's the other human beings, there's the animal kingdom, there's the plant kingdom, right? So you enter society in the state of nature. And you enter society because you're driven by scarcities of life. Living alone, an ascetic life, self-exiled, or living in a monastery alone, or living in an autarkic state, self-isolation is difficult. Very difficult, right? You can't produce all the goods and the services that you desire. So, human beings driven by scarcity, particularly of time to extract resources, we enter society, right? Human beings enter society. This societal entry is motivated by our self-interest and, most importantly, the benefits of the division of labor. Now, let's talk about quickly the division of labor. This is what distinguishes us human beings from the rest of the animal kingdom. Division of labor. Ants, they have limited division of labor, like 2-3 levels, right? There's the working ants, and there's the guiding ants, the bees. There's the queen bee, there are the drones protecting the queen, and then there are the work bees, and maybe some few other categories. So the division of labor is limited. Human beings, what distinguishes us is the division of labor. How deep is the division of labor? Infinite. There's no limit. Okay, 100 years ago, a doctor was a doctor, would do everything. Now we have like specialized doctors, right? In the future, so within the specialty, there are other specialties. Within the new specialty, there's even more. So the deeper and deeper we're getting into the division of labor. And the deeper we get into the division of labor, that means the deeper we become interconnected. We become the division of labor is the mechanism that brings society together. I'm not in the classroom because I like you. I don't. I don't care. You get hit by a bus the next day, right? I know you in person now. I would care, you know. I love some of you. I like some of you. But in general, right? So it's the division of labor. So outside of the classroom, this is my household. Okay, you're all my kids. So this is the household. So outside the household, in the galaxy, right? In the world, people around the world, right? What brings me in harmony with them is division of labor, right? I don't care if something. So my love to humanity is driven by my self-interest and the benefits of the division of labor. Okay, division of labor, and it's getting deeper and deeper. We are becoming more and more interconnected. Okay, more and more interconnected and interdependent. My survival depends on you. Okay. Autarky and self-sufficiency are often unsuitable, necessitating societal interaction. You can't live your life in autarky, you would be miserable. Your clan, yourself, your family, you'll die out. Okay? Societies that come together, create harmony, exchange goods and services. The division of labor is getting deeper and deeper. Since the Industrial Revolution, it's getting even more deeper. Before that, there used to be wars. There used to be all, the land agrarian societies doing the same thing, robotic, most people. Right? So there were more wars. I think in the future there'll be no wars, generalized wars, and we see World War I, World War II, and the big wars, right? Because our interdependence and interconnectedness is going to get so deep that we're going to protect one another, okay? And hopefully the borders will be eradicated, no more artificial borders. It will be like privatized society, proprietary, contractual society coming together. Human action in the state of nature manifests itself in potential modes. So when the naked ape enters society, there are two types of relationship. It could be either a symbiotic relationship, where we are interdependent, interconnected, right? That's the order that arises in anarchy. anarchy. A circle stands for order. It's not chaos, it's an orderly system. It's a symbiotic relationship. Symbioticism is not a mythical, oh, we're all in the human race, we all belong to this group. No, it's symbiotic, mutually beneficial exchange, right? So when you enter society, either it's a symbiotic or the alternative is a parasitic state. What is parasitism? Is when one person benefits at the expense of the other person. This parasitic state is marked by conflict, violence, and dominance. This is the state, the situation that we get under statism and centralized governance or political governance. This is the state that we get under a decentralized market governance. Okay, so we're going to explore the different systems that we have. Do we want a decentralized market governance or a centralized political governance? And we're going to discover that will lead to parasitic state, and it leads to violence, conflict, and conflict. Symbiotic human action is characterized by co-opetition. What is co-opetition? Co-opetition.
It's cooperative competition.
Cooperative competition. So in the world, human beings, we cooperate and we compete. And there's plenty of examples, right? I'll mention a few of them. Yeah, a few of them. So cooperation and conflict are not necessarily against one another. It's like, oh, there's competition. Competition is not an enemy. Competition is we're actually helping one another to discover our comparative advantages. I owned a coffee shop, Old Town, Pasadena, right? And Starbucks came open within a year, like a block away. I personally spent, I had a partner with me, I spent $100,000 from my own money while I was a student myself. I lost it within 1 year because Starbucks opened. I went to Starbucks, I asked for the manager, I said, thank you for making me realize that running a coffee shop business is not my comparative advantage. So when your competitor beats you, he's doing you a favor, he's telling you don't do this, do something else. So in life, you always want to discover what you're best at. And who's going to tell you what you're best at? The marketplace, the competitive marketplace. So in a way, it's a cooperative system. We're telling each other, right? If I fail you in class, you should come give me the biggest hug. Thank you very much for letting me know that I should major in economics. Okay? And sometimes the students I like the most, I fail them because I want to see them again. Okay, don't tell me. So co-opetition is cooperative competition. For example, companies like Apple, Google, Samsung, they compete in the smartphone market, but at the same time they cooperate to develop US standards, right? We will talk about standards that are developed in the marketplace, where the credit cards, various banks have the same size credit card, right? That wasn't by design. It was just a cooperation of all the banks, individually, privately, in the marketplace, without coercion or imposition. They came and said, you know what, maybe we do it the same shapes, but customers can utilize each other's bank, because it benefits all of them, right? If you create a credit card that's round, you'll be, nobody would want to get your, sign up for your bank, because you're the only one that accepts that card, right? We want flexibility. So these are the norms, traditions that are evolved, like, so it's competition, but it's a cooperative competition. They share certain patterns and technologies, they work together on security protocols, right? This cooperation makes the overall market bigger and better for everyone. Competitive action can enhance resource efficiency. Competitive. What is competition does mean? You have to cut down on your costs. So you're protecting society's scarce resources, or you're also, it's like minimizing cost, maximizing profits is the same side of the coin, like the other side of the same coin, which is minimizing cost. And we want to minimize cost. We want to use my own resources efficiently. I want to use my time in the most beneficial way. So the division of labor and cooperation yield higher profitability than autarky. Symbiotic relationships are the dominant norm in society. You look around, this is all symbiotic relationships, the hotel, the management, you go to the gas station. What kind of relationship? Mostly symbiotic, okay? It's a symbiotic voluntary exchange of goods and services in the marketplace. In contrast, political parasitism okay, is imposed and involuntary. It's imposed, right? We pay taxes, and we don't have an option where the money is going from. It could go for welfare. Maybe I'm against welfare distribution, or it could be going to warfare, right? Going into like wars and throwing up Tomahawk missiles that cost us $1 million each in Libya. So this is parasitism, and it's a centralized authority, coercive authority that imposes on you taxation, rules and regulations, involuntary distribution, etc. So it's not a symbiotic relationship. The political society. So now you may ask, you say, well, I mean, if that's not the equilibrium, so why do we have political society all around the world, right? I mean, if it's not stabilizing, it creates chaos and violence and aggression, right? So, but why do we have? You look around the world, there is always right centralized authority, centralized form of governance. There is the state or political governance, right? So, political governance. Why does it exist? Well, political governance emerged from a perceived fear. Okay, it emerged from a perceived fear by Hobbes, right? Thomas Hobbes. He said, well, we don't talk about Hobbes shortly. He said, well, in the next state of nature, there'll be chaos, there'll be, there'll be disequilibrium, it would be harsh, it would be short-lived, life would be miserable. So out of fear of the theoretical state of nature, right, the state emerged. Hobbes' mischaracterization of the state of nature. He didn't understand, obviously, several hundred years ago, the state of nature was different than it is now, right? We're evolving, we are becoming more and more interdependent. The Industrial Revolution was the inflection point where we went from homogeneous labor force into a heterogeneous, diversified, more and more deeper and deeper division of labor. That division of labor is the binding force of society. So Tom Hobbes was right, pre-industrial revolution, right? But over time, technology is evolving, our independence, our interdependence is also increasing. So if he was right in the past, he's not right today. So I call it a mischaracterization. Social contract theory that emerged out of this fear. So the idea of Hobbes, right, saying that the state of nature is chaotic, social contract theory philosophers emerged of this fear. And they said that individuals should do what? Voluntarily, I should give my rights voluntarily to a higher authority. And in return, that higher authority is going to give me protection, okay? It's kind of like a circular policy. Like I'm giving my rights away, so you protect my rights. But I already gave you my rights, right? So it's like it's a circular policy. I don't know how that works, right? So you're ceding certain rights, so you get some protection. So to a higher authority, the political government, or as Hobbes calls it, the Leviathan. So the state of nature is defined as the human condition absent political government. Hobbes, 1651, he characterized this state. He said, in this state, there will be a war of every man against every other man. So without a centralized absolute authority, people will be at each other's throat. He said there'll be a constant violent state of competition. He said an existence that is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. This is the fear that went into human beings, and you have these social contract theorists, then utilitarianism. They said, oh, well, we give away some of our rights, in return we get political protection, we get safety, etc. But we're going to turn out that the entity that we're giving our rights, that's the entity that actually caused violence, that's the entity that murdered 160 million people in the 20th century alone. Rommels, right? Rommels has a website, he looks at the numbers, right? So in the 20th century, between Mao Zedong and Pol Pot and Stalin and Hitler and Mussolini and the rest, right? He identifies them. 160 million people died at the hands of their own government. It wasn't a war between, Lebanon and Israel, or Syria and Turkey. It was a war. It was annihilation within the states. The state killed its own citizens. 160 million people died in the 20th century alone. So the entity that we're giving our freedoms away so that we get protection, that's the entity that's actually committing crime on us. Okay, in addition to the interstate wars, etc. So this is the fear. This is where the fear came from. Thomas Hobbes, right, creating a fear in society. So according to this theory, the only laws in the state of nature are founded on self-preservation. He said then what we need to do is should give the authority to a higher centralized authority because there is universal fear and mistrust will prevail, justice, commerce, and culture cannot fly. You agree with Hobbes and his political theory? There are so following Hobbes, right? Following Hobbes, you see the dates, chronological order. Many following Hobbes. Following up many social contract theories. What are the social contracts theory? Social contract theory is that you and I will come together in this classroom and we say, you know what, we'll make a contract. We're going to designate him as the ruler. We're going to give him his freedoms, and and he's going to make the decision on everybody's behalf. He's a nice guy, he's a tribal leader, etc. So we're giving away our freedoms so he can give us the rules, and So that's the social contract. It's a contract between people. Obviously, some of them it goes beyond the actual contract. It's like it's an implicit contract. Is it like John Rawls we're going to talk about? Said before you were born, behind the veil of ignorance. That means before you were born, if you asked, do you want to belong to a society where that society takes care of the most unfortunate members of the society? And he said, under such conditions, everyone is going to vote yes. Because if this is before life, if I jump into life, I don't know if I'm going to be in a wealthy family, in a nice country, or I'm going to be miserable, poor, right, or handicapped, etc. So he said, behind the veil of ignorance, most people will sign up to have their basics covered. So therefore, when you're born, if you have money, you have wealth, and he doesn't have the wealth, then there should be a redistribution. He said there is an implicit contract, right? So these are the variations. This is only the few, but there's a dozen of variations of these social contract theories, right? Hobbes, John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, John Rawls. I just mentioned about Rawls and behind the veil of ignorance. Robert Nozick, and many others. The central argument is that the claims a superiority of centralized government over the state of nature. He said we need centralized authority. These philosophers, they argue that rational individuals should voluntarily accept governmental authority. Voluntarily, we should accept governmental authority. So their work forms the foundation of a much more modern political theory and the concept of social contract. This is the environment that we live in today. What is democracy? Right? I mean, we're all coming together, we're voting, and then we're giving them all the power, and then in return, he's giving us protection. Okay? So in return, we're getting. We have a fear. It's telling us if I don't exist, you guys will be at each other's throat. Okay? So the objective of this course, one of the many objectives, is to find out whether if this entity doesn't exist, what happens to society. We want to find out society, right? The division of labor binds us together. There's interdependence, interconnectedness. Via the division of labor, we individuals, we create all the institutions, the market institutions, they already exist, they just don't know it yet. Insurance and assurance companies could play the role of a natural government, market arbitration and mediation, market defense agencies, proprietary contractual society. The technology exists, homesteading exists, seasteading exists, we have electronic fencing, air steading exists, privatization of the airs, privatization of the oceans. Right? The same way we have privatized land, the homesteading principle. The technology exists, the mindset exists, the philosophy exists. All is needed is a paradigm shift. In your head, you have to click. Okay? Because since you were born, you're indoctrinated, you're raised through religion, family, schools, college, etc. Right? That you need a centralized, there is the 10 commandments, right? It's like centralized. No, we don't need that. We can have a decentralized, harmonious social order. Okay, so this is a paradigm shift in your head. Okay, it's like a shift is required, and hopefully I will guide you in the direction. Hopefully by the end you say, well, this is making sense, and then how we can build on it. The social contract proposes agreements between the rules and the ruled. This compact defines the rights and duties of each party. All essential civic rights and duties are theorized to be logically deducible from this agreement, okay? Hobbes, the power of the government is supreme, right? So for Hobbes, the power of the government is supreme. In this sense, no authority is above the government, and its will is the law. The social contract allows individuals to leave the state of nature and enter civil society. So let's get out of the state of nature and enter into civil society, obviously in quotation mark, because it turns out it's very uncivilized, okay? Enter statism, that's what I mean. So the Leviathan's power is uncontested. The Leviathan is the centralized authority. Philosopher John Locke had a different view. He defined political authority based on natural individual rights and freedoms, as well as the consent of the governed. He said, well, it's not absolute power, but the governed, we give away, we communicate, right? It's like he laid the foundations for what we call democracy today. It's like, it's people come together and then voting, and then we get when we hire someone and we make him the president. Well, the word president comes from the word to preside, right? He's presiding over a meeting. He doesn't have the absolute power. Things changed in the US history. We'll talk of time permits. Where suddenly the president, the guy was facilitating the exchange, the communication among all of you. Suddenly he gets to tax you and he becomes a centralized and independent entity than you, okay? So Locke, building upon Hobbes, asserts that the right to life, liberty, and property are natural rights. So he said, I have the right to life, I have the right to liberty and property. These are my rights. So you, the government, I'll give you, you can do anything you want. You can decide on transportation, on the roads and services, redistribution, tax policy, protection policy, arbitration, mediation, but don't touch my right to property, liberty, and rights. These are the natural rights. Obviously, we will go against these natural rights too. Where do you get these natural rights? Abstract. You said nature, there's no document that says when you're born, with a document that says you have the rights. So objectively, I mean, who's giving you the right? Where do you derive those rights? Do you actually have the right to property or liberty or right to life? What happens? I can say I have the right to life and sit at home. I get hungry, so what should be done then? So I'm going to force you to come and do what? Feed me. I stay at home, I smoke all day long, and I drink alcohol, and then, my kidneys are failing. What I must say, I have the right to life. So there's positive rights and negative rights, right? So no, you don't have the right to life. You earn life. You earn your medication, you earn your food, you earn the water. Okay, so we're going to distinguish between positive and negative rights. Okay, but John Locke is somewhere, it's a stack angle is saying we have some rights, but we need the government and the political economy. Sorry, you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any rights?
No.
Okay.
No rights, yeah. No objective rights. That's what taxonomy is. Praxeonomy, which I mentioned earlier, for those of you who came in late, is a new term, okay? We don't talk about rights. The only rights that you have are the rights that you can protect. Okay? Don't let anyone fool you that you have just rights, because they get violated. You have the rights to life. Well, someone can kill you. I mean, you have the right not to be, people steal your property, people take your, life away, there's rape, there's all kinds of crimes and things like that. So, many societies, different societies claim that they have different rights. Okay, so there's subjective rights. You can claim you have certain rights. His household claims they have different rights. His household, his tribe would claim they have different rights. You can claim subjectively, groups can claim rights, but there's no objective measure of rights. It's an abstract. So that's why we don't talk about praxeonomy, which is rights that are evolved, emergent via market activity, via human action, norms and traditions and value system and moral systems that emerges in the marketplace. So it's an emergent value system rather than imposed value system. So rights emerge rather than they are imposed from above. Rousseau, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, he wrote a book, The Social Contract and Discourse on Origin. He said that political authority arises from social contract, same idea. Right? Again, this is the circular fallacy I was talking about. It's like I give you all the rights, so you give me protection, but then I lost my right. I'm trying to defend my rights, but I'm giving it to you. It's like, And obviously, over time, these rights are getting bigger and bigger. The loss of the rights, right? Centralized authority is getting stronger and more dominant. Now they can say what we can drink, what we can eat food. There's going to be a fashion police one day, and then so it's over time, right? We're losing more and more rights. Rousseau believed that humans were originally free in the state of nature, and they said however, when societies evolved and there was competition, it led to conflict, and he said corrupting human nature, and he said that we should, enter into a political authority. He said the state of system is characterized by economic inequality, private property are unjust. He said private property. We don't talk extensively about private property, the role that private property plays. Okay, he said they're unjust. So what are you suggesting? A collectivized ownership of property, right? And then what does that mean? Where are the incentives? We don't talk about incentives. What are your incentives when private property is collectively owned? Okay. What kind of society would that be? Rousseau's political theory has influenced ideas of democracy, the theory of the majority, nationalism, and socialism. So do you agree with Jean-Jacques Rousseau? It's another question mark. John Stuart Mill defended the role of the state. The role should be restricted to preventing harm. So again, this is so these social contract theorists are moving forward, and they're becoming more and more. Well, we have some rights. They're inalienable rights. You can touch them, but certain decisions, certain rights, we're going to give it to you, and you're going to be the decision maker. He defended individual liberties, limited government, emphasizing the importance of protecting freedom from state intervention. And it has been important, Mill's work has been important in shaping the classical school of economic thought, or classical liberal political philosophy, okay? Limited government, limited intervention, but nevertheless a state to exist. Now we're moving more and more towards what I call minarchism, right? Minarchism. So there's statism, you want state authority to be involved in all human affairs. Then you have minarchism, limited intervention, only in the provision of security, arbitration, mediation, right? And you have the anarchists. They're saying, wait a minute, there's nothing unique about these services. Why don't we decentralize and investigate and explore the provision of these goods and services in a free market environment? So Mill's work has been important in shaping classical political theory. John Rawls, I mentioned earlier, this is the guy who said behind the veil of ignorance, that means before you were born, you would sign an agreement, you would say, you know what, if I'm born poor, then I want some redistribution. And I agree, if I'm born or life is wealthy, if I have the capacity, I'm born in a safe and secure family and country, then I'm okay for some money to be taken away and redistributed, right? So you make that decision. And he said that's why we want the least advantaged members of the society to be nurtured, protected, and safe. Okay. So he called for more intervention and more redistributive interventionism. Robert Nozick, in his book, An Anarchist State and Utopia. So now we're moving more and more towards anarchism. He said that he argued for a minimal state. Okay, no redistribution, nothing. Only we need the state to give us the protect our natural rights, the right to life, right to liberty, and right to property. They said nothing else. We don't want subsidized education. We don't want subsidized housing. We want to denationalize the provision of roads and services, right? So we're moving towards minarchism with the medium of exchange, right? Was it monopolized? Why does the government centralized authority has a government has monopoly over the medium of exchange? Can we denationalize it? Can we decentralize the medium of exchange? Yes. We have a whole pillar dedicated to the medium of exchange. We will talk about the evolution of money from a barter system all the way to gold and silver metal money, to fiat money, all the way to cryptocurrency and beyond that. Okay, so that's coming up in a pillar. So now Nozick's theory stands in opposition to Rawls' more expensive. So Rawls wanted a more expensive state. Nozick wants a minimal state. Obviously, Hobbes wanted absolute authority. So there are different variations of these social contract theories. They all argued in favor of interventionism and the necessity of the institutions for securing individual rights, promoting justice, and maintaining social order. In contrast, some philosophers actually offered some views, cautionary views about the state power. Nobel Prize winner Hayek is Austrian, from the Austrian tradition, Austrian school economist. Hayek, in his book The Road to Serfdom, he warned against dangers of central planning. Said, wait a minute, I mean, we're giving away all the rights to a centralized authority for protection, but there are dangers involved in this. Okay, it's very dangerous when you give that right to another entity. He cautions about excessive state intervention, okay, in economics and social affairs. And at this rate, we continue like this, there's going to be more and more interventions, right? There's more and more interventions, step by step, by increments, right? It's going to lead us towards socialism and statism and more authoritarian regimes. He predicted a powerful state may lead to a loss of individual freedoms. You have an illusion, you think you're free, you're not. It's an illusion, okay? So many rights have been taken away by step that you're born into it, and you think that's the way it's supposed to be. Okay? I mean, I don't know where to start. I mean, you know, if you own a business, it's your decision if you want to smoke or non-smoking. I mean, who gives a centralized entity to come into your own private property? So what kind of proper ownership of a private property is if you can't smoke in your own property? I have a business, a coffee shop down the street. You can't smoke. You have to serve everyone. You know, the rule, permits, licenses, you can do. So this is just the tip of the icebergs. There's so much interventionism, so much rules and regulations, so much freedom has been taken away. It's like such small increments that we're not noticing it. You think it's an illusion that you're free. You're not. Everything you've been measured, you've been calculated, you've been confined, constricted, restricted, right? And you just like, if you get out of this mentality, you realize, oh my God, I have no freedom, I have nothing. Everything has been taken away from you. You just don't see it. You're blind to it. Okay? Because it's done slowly by increments. You're born into it. Okay? And you say, oh, it's the way it is. It's the system. Right? Ishan?
So with us recognizing that, what can we really do? Because I've never been into a restaurant where I could smoke, but like I miss that era.
Yeah.
Like what do we, you know, now that we recognize that, how do we return to that?
Paradigm shift. Hopefully, I give you this paradigm shift and you pass it on, and then hopefully at some point you become, you know, businessmen and actors and policymakers in the private sector and think tanks, and you educate other people. It's via education. I mean,
So
you're talking about restaurants. I remember airplanes.
smoke on an airplane?
Smoking, I remember my
Oh,
yeah,
guys.
you know, like I remember I've been in an airplane smoking. My first trip was in an airplane with smoking. Imagine airplane smoking. You know, why don't we have a freedom to choose? Have the freedom to choose. There'll be airlines not smoking. There'll be airlines smoking. There'll be airlines with a broken engine, but you pay $50 to travel around the world. There'll be airlines with like 10 different engines, and it's a $10,000 trip. Why isn't there choice in the marketplace? Because human beings are not homogeneous with respect to our risk averseness. Some are risk takers. He wants to travel the world for $100 on a broken engine. That's fine. He wants to travel with 3 engines, okay, safe, he's risk averse, he's a risk taker. I mean, this is just, and expand this idea to the rest of the industries. There's so much rules, and you think you're free, you're not free. I would like to fly on a plane where I can smoke a hookah, okay, or where I can puff on my cigar, okay? Uh, so just contemplate, like on your own, take a few minutes tonight and just think about like, it's just like the freedom that you have lost, you don't even realize it. You just think it's the way it is. Again, it's not like freedoms are being taken because if you act in a certain way, you affect someone else negatively in society, like negative. No, without causing negative externality. Like personal subjective choice. You can't even kill yourself, right? I mean, you can't sell a kidney. I mean, if I own myself, what's the most fundamental thing about self-ownership? Like, it's my body. I want to sell a kidney. I have two. I need one. I want to sell one so I can go on a vacation with my wife. Right? Whatever you want to do, it's subjective what you do with it. You don't have the right to sell a kidney. There is only one country in the world where there is a market and it's operating beautifully. The idea is like, oh, the rich people are going to go into the market and, oh, like, I'll take a heart, I'll take a kidney, It's like the wealthy people are going to abuse and exploit the poor people. It's not like that. Actually, the cost of a kidney would be your 1 year salary. Let's say the average salary is in the US 60, 70,000, that would be the price of a kidney in the marketplace. Economists have done some studies. Okay? And there's one country in the world where actually even the poor people, imagine James needs a kidney. You don't think his family are going to rally and then his friends, he's going to go on GoFundMe, nice cute pictures of him traveling around the world, holding hearts. And then, you know what? I mean, if there's a market, within like a few hours, James is going to get $60,000. Okay? It's happening in Iran. It has a free market in organs. And it's not that the rich are exploiting the poor. Everybody's helping everyone. They're putting ads in the newspaper. Religious people are coming together. Friends, family are coming together. Tribes are coming. Everyone is helping. And there is a seller. Obviously the seller, like you can go through like mental evaluation. They know what you're doing. There's a cause. I mean, the hospitals, the doctors could verify transactions like that. But I mean, I don't know where to start. I mean, whether it's the FDA, the drugs, that certain drugs you cannot take, certain you can take. They want to put a restriction on the amount of money that you can do. You don't even remember the mayor of New York wanted to put a cap on the size of a soda. He said it can't be like bigger than 24 ounce. No, I want 36 ounce. Like he says, no, it won't be sold at like movie theaters, things like that. I mean, just think about it. You can fill up this whole room. So many freedoms have been taken away. You're just like immune to it. You just don't realize it. Okay, it's like there's a weight on my shoulder because I know I mean, you're gonna end up hating me at the end of this course, okay? Because you're gonna realize and you're gonna have peace. You're gonna have peace in you. It's a very peaceful. You're gonna know everything, and you're gonna have a peaceful life. Because you don't expect everything. You understand human nature. You're not gonna be in an like my partner like screwed me over. It took to be like you're gonna be. It's the condition. And you're gonna learn how to avoid that because it's not based, market transaction is not based on trust. Okay, it's based on creating an environment where it's mutually beneficial to stay together as partners. Right? If one entity walks away, it's a loss to you and loss to me. So we continuously want to create that equilibrium that it is a mutually beneficial partnership, whether it's your wife, your friends, your business partner, etc. So you're going to get inner peace, and you're going to be, and you're going to make a lot of enemies. Okay, if you come back like after the third pillar, you say, "Oh, all my friends, I lost my family." I'm gonna say, "That's great, that's good." Okay. I had a student. He's from Argentina. Forgot his name. It will come to me. And he went on. It was Thanksgiving break. He went on. He came back. He comes to me after the stairs. I'm going to my office. Professor, I'm like, what? It's like I went home and all my family turns against me. All my friends are not talking to me. I'm like, what happened? It's like I was talking about your class and what I believe, and everybody hates me. And I'm like, that's great. That's fantastic. Okay. So you will have a shift of your mindset, So hopefully, so Hayek, he won the Nobel Prize. He said the dangers of decentralized learning, etc. He won the Nobel Prize on the idea of spontaneous order. That order emerges out of a seeming chaos. If you look outside, it's chaotic. People are going this way, that way, It's like, what's going on? But everything is harmonious. Order emerges. In Somalia, order emerged when there was like absence of authority. Okay, it's not anarchic order; it's absence of order. Okay, in Egypt, after the Arab Spring, government shut down, government topples. Within like 2-3 hours, order emerged. It looks chaotic, but order emerged. Everyone knew what to protect. Few of the guys, in the neighborhood, they stopped all the looting that's going on. And within 3-4 hours, Somalia is another example. There's plenty of examples we'll talk about. Order emerges out of seeming chaos. Okay, order will emerge. More on that later. However, he was a minarchist, right? He said small government. And finally, I would like to introduce Murray Rothbard. Rothbard is Mises' student. Rothbard made the leap from minarchism to anarchism. He said, wait a minute. All of you want small government, but you want government to provide security and arbitration and mediation, right? The courts, right? And security, enforcement of contracts. You have a contract, who's going to enforce it? So you want the law, the courts, and you want the police. He said, wait a minute, there's nothing unique about the provision of arbitration, mediation, jurisprudence, and there's nothing unique about the provision of security. The market could do it. We already have security agencies. Campuses have their own security, but there'll be real security. They're not going to call the cops either. They're going to have guns. They're going to have, real security. Arbitration mediation already exists. I think 99% of the cases they go into arbitration mediation. So these are private entities that provide, and contractually, before entering the classroom, we say anytime there's an altercation between me and Kumi, right? We're going to go to arbitrator, A. And so we go to him, it's predetermined, pre-contractually agreed that he's going to be the decision maker. And there are pre-contractually agreed upon punishment if you don't abide by the terms of the agreement or by his decision. So more on that later on. Okay, more on that later on. And that's the end of the second lecture. So I want quickly, so now we're on time.